Well, let's talk about whether or not the candidate that this next guest is supporting is a serious candidate. Bob Seely is Conservative MP, and he is supporting Penny Mordaunt for the leadership. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning, Julia. Good morning.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Before we get on to Penny Mordaunt and her qualities to be Prime Minister, can we talk about Boris Johnson? Why do you think he pulled out?
I don't know, and I'm loath to start to speculate because I think one of the things that we have to make sure we do is come together. I like Boris very much, 80-seat majority, extraordinary achievement, and Rishi is a thoroughly good bloke and was an extremely competent chancellor. So I'm not going to frame any negative comments in their direction. I think.
Well, it doesn't have to be negative. I'm asking you an honest question. I mean, I think Boris Johnson pulled out not because he didn't think he could unite the party. I think Boris Johnson pulled out because he didn't have the nominees. He wasn't actually going to get over the line.
I suspect he would have got over the line. I think Boris likes to be liked. And I think potentially because he felt that he wasn't going to win, even if he had got over 100 nominees. I suspect that's the reason why he pulled out, but I don't know. I suspect he was telling the truth when he had 100 nominees.
Except he said he had his supporters, his campaign said he had 100 nominees back in lunchtime on Saturday, and then he pulled out yesterday saying he had 102, including proposer and seconder. So didn't put on a single person in those 36 hours.
If Boris says he has over 100 nominees, I'll believe him. And it's well, look, it's pretty irrelevant anyway because the guy's pulled out the race. I think he's done the decent thing by doing so. He was a fantastic leader at the last election, and I hope he still has an amazing role to play in our party because he is a fantastic campaigner and actually a big-hearted, super smart person.
OK, well, again, I know you were talking about the campaign and as a campaigner and a leader at the last election, but perhaps not a great Prime Minister in lots of aspects of the things that do need to be sorted out now. Why do you think that Penny Mordaunt is the right person for the job? Because what she's been pushing is the idea that she's the unity candidate. You've got Boris on one side, you've got Rishi Sunak on the other. There's a lot of bad feeling between those camps, this idea that Rishi Sunak forced Boris Johnson from power, I think, which is frankly a load of cobblers. Boris Johnson forced Boris Johnson from power. But why do you think that Penny Mordaunt has got the skills, the ability, the experience right now, the character to lead this country at, let's face it, a time of crisis?
Great question, really important one. One, she has a great deal of ministerial experience, so 9 ministerial jobs in 8 years across, and 3 of them in the cabinet. And I think she has the personal quality. She's a good decision maker. She's likable. She empathises with people. All the polling that we're doing, I think there's some polling being released this morning that if you look in red wall seats, people who know of the candidates will rate Penny as the most highly, the most relatable, the person they're most likely to have as their friend, the person most likely to restore trust. So when it comes to actually being solid, likable, decent character, Penny scores incredibly highly. She's also a very competent government minister and she knows government well. And her decision-making over a decade or nearly a decade of being in the ministerial office is impressive, and she has a strong record.
You say she has a strong record, 9 ministerial jobs in 8 years. She didn't do any of them for very long. Some of them she held for a matter of months. I'm not sure, to be fair, those really count. In terms of holding jobs, it's all very well. Yeah. It's what you actually do in those jobs that matters, isn't it?
That's a really good point, but Julia, ministers don't decide how long
I realise they don't, but the point is that claiming you've done 9 ministerial jobs in 8 years isn't necessarily quite the big claim that you think it is.
No, I think it shows that she's trusted by other people to be a good, competent minister. So look, she established a global disability summit that's still going strong. When she was when she was Diffid Secretary of State, very importantly for people like you and indeed me, she shifted funding to areas of public support. For example, she took it away from some of the dafter schemes and spent money on programs that lifted Commonwealth veterans out of poverty. Now, I suspect that you would find that pretty popular. When she was Master General, she rewrote the UK's resilience strategy. When she was Minister of the DWP, she pushed through a strategy to help women's equality, to make sure women were getting the same support as men. She helped bring the firefighters strike to a close.
When she was Minister for Women and Equality, she said that trans women were women and trans men were men. Find that difficult to deal with as a woman, the only kind.
Julia, I quite agree with that. It wasn't my favourite statement from Penny as well, but just for the record, Penny does not agree with self-identification.
So she doesn't agree with herself?
Let me just finish. Well, look, we all occasionally misspeak or stuff.
No, she didn't. No. She didn't misspeak. She was either lying then or she's lying now. Does she think that trans women are women?
Right. Let me answer the question. That Penny, since then, has made it categorically clear that she does not believe in self-ID, and she doesn't believe that if you have a penis and identify as a man, that you should be in women's only spaces.
Okay. But she did then. She said it on the floor of the House of Commons in a written statement. It wasn't a misspeak.
I don't know, Julia, but what I do know is that we evolve, and things that...
It was a year ago.
I've evolved in some of my opinions over my time in Parliament. So people have...
I don't know if you can evolve sanity. You either think a man can be a woman, or you don't. I mean, that's just sanity and honesty. Come on. Okay, let's talk about...
Penny's a fantastically generous person. Maybe she was just trying to be generous, but when it's a statement of fact that she will now say she doesn't recognise ID.
Here's the thing.
Look, she's a big supporter of women in women's rights. So please
Okay. Yes. Well, she wasn't when she made that statement. You talk about a lot about her experience. She was in PR before she worked in politics. We are dealing with very difficult economic times. We are dealing with interest rates and inflation and an energy crisis and fiscal crisis. I mean, we are. Do we not need someone who, frankly, with all due respect, can operate a calculator and understands the numbers? I wouldn't be up to this job in terms of being able to understand the figures. Rishi Sunak, people might not like his background in banking and being super rich. There are lots of things like that makes people go, oh, Penny Mordaunt's lived an ordinary life. She's had a much more ordinary background. She understands people like me. She's had hardship. Rishi Sunak has not known any of that, top private school and the like. But it'd be quite good to have someone who understands how numbers add up.
Julia, that's a great question. By the way, you shouldn't do yourself down. I suspect you'd be quite good.
I really, really would not be able to be Chancellor. I'd be a great Prime Minister. I could sort this country out tomorrow.
Right. Let me put it like this: that having expertise in a role, I think, can be really valuable and really useful. However, Jeremy Hunt is not an economist and is doing a really solid job as a Chancellor.
Is he?
Let me finish. Please let me answer your question. Kwasi has buckets of experience and has written extensively about economics and was something of an economic expert in Parliament, and that didn't do him a particular amount of good, sadly, because of circumstance. So my one-sentence answer to your question is that whilst expertise is important, judgment is better, and Penny's judgment over the years has proved to be extremely solid and extremely competent. And a politician is not the expert in him or herself, because you have experts working for you. The quality of that we look for in politicians is a solidity of judgment, not necessarily expertise in a given area. We have a war on at the moment. Rishi has never been, held a job in one of those government departments. So it's having a range of competence across government departments and being seen by your colleagues as a highly confident individual. That is most important.
Those are all fair arguments. Let's come back to some realities, though. Penny Mordaunt has only got 25 publicly named MPs backing her. She needs 100 plus a proposer and seconder. We doubt whether Boris Johnson could get those numbers. Rishi Sunak's already at 155. There's talk about from his team that he's actually going to be going over the halfway mark, which makes it, he'll be the most popular. And if we do go to a vote, the indicative vote of Tory MPs, which won't be binding, it will still go to Tory membership if it does go to that, if there are two candidates, that would show that he had the majority support of MPs. Can Penny Mordaunt cross the line to get those 100 supporters?
We're confident, and things have been going really well. Look, I think we've now got a sense of momentum. So let's just see where we are come 2 o'clock today. All is to play for, and let's just wait for the result. But what I'm trying to do this morning is with folks listening to this, and if there are any colleagues listening, is to explain why that Penny has the best combination of ministerial experience and personal qualities likely to unite our country, lead our nation, win the next general election.
But if MPs thought that, she would, and she was the unity candidate, she would have more than 25 public backers, wouldn't she? Well, and a lot of the people who backed her back in the last leadership contest, just a couple of months ago, they've already come out for Rishi Sunak.
Well, let's see where we are. Let's just see where we are.
Do you think you'll get a load of Boris Johnson supporters coming over?
Potentially, yeah. Look, let's see where we are, because we're confident we'll make the 100.
So you're confident that at 2:00 there will be 2 candidates running for the Tory leadership?
I hope so, yes, Julia.
OK, well, we shall wait and see. Just final question, actually. If Penny Mordaunt doesn't get it or she doesn't win, will Penny Mordaunt supporters, will Penny Mordaunt unite behind whoever, well, Rishi Sunak as the next Prime Minister?
We're all going to unite behind the person who wins either way.
We've heard that before, haven't we, from everyone?
I'm going to, so I don't know what others are going to do, but I think it's about setting an example. I'm not going to badmouth my colleagues, and I'm going to support whoever wins.
Bob Seely, Conservative MP for Isle of Wight.